Hi penguins! So a few things before we get started. First of all, I apologize again for not wearing any makeup. My face is still repairing from the Tempest, so I'm trying to hold back on wearing a ton of makeup. So that's that. Also, the only reason I'm wearing a knit hat is because I had to turn off the heat to make this video. So yeah, I'm freezing right now. Anyway, we are all here today because I am making an actual cut YouTube-esque video. We'll see how this goes. And I am going to tell you guys about my kind of creative process for writing Wattpad story. Also, update from the last video, I did find my stuffed penguin. Isn't he adorable? His name is Waddles, and I love him. Alright, so the first step I usually do when writing a Wattpad story is I get my inspiration. So I consider my inspiration my muse, and it just kind of comes to me through a variety of different sources. Sometimes I'll listen to music that will inspire me. Sometimes people will tell me stories that are just so interesting that I'll want to write my own story about it. Or I'll have a dream or read a book that I kind of want to model after for my Wattpad story. After I have been inspired by some form of media or something in my life, I have a lot of inspiration actually for a lot of different things, so I have to go on to the next step, which is flourishing. And that's where I kind of let the idea sit in my mind for a while before I actually get around to writing it. And yeah, that's supposed to be me. That's a potato, like me. During the flourishing stage, I'll kind of just let an idea sit in my mind and I'll think about it like while I'm in the shower, before I go to bed, and I'll have to decide which stories I'm going to actually stick with, and that's kind of what the flourishing period is for, because it gives me a chance to gauge whether or not I'm still going to be interested in the story 2 weeks after I've had the idea. So usually I give it about 2 weeks to a month before I actually sit down and write something that I have an idea for. After I have been inspired and after I have let the inspiration kind of sit in my brain and figure things out, I begin the drafting process. So the drafting process for me will usually consist of an outline, or I'll create a story arc with pictures in it, and that's just so I can figure out what the beginning and the end of my story is. Before To Have the Player's Kid, I had an idea on how to end the series. I know how I want the series to end, but I didn't know how I wanted the first book to end, which kind of led to that really big twist in chapter 39, 49, I don't remember, which a lot of people said came out of nowhere. And so in my edits, I'm going to try working on that and kind of give more foreshadowing for that twist. But that's part of the reason why it seems so sudden to many of you, is because I didn't do proper planning and drafting. Which, that is a tip for all of my Wattpad readers or my fans, is that you should really start to figure out the beginning and the end of your story before you begin writing. Because if you don't know where your story is going to end, it's going to seem very disjointed, or you could end up losing inspiration and not knowing how you're going to finish the story. So finally, after the inspiration and letting it sit in my mind and the drafting, I get on to writing chapter 1. So there's a little picture of a potato typing on a computer. So yeah, for chapter 1, I oftentimes put a little bit more effort into that chapter than I do with later chapters. I'll spend more time thinking about the plot, I'll spend more time editing it, I'll oftentimes make it longer than what a regular update is, and that's also so I can start drawing readers. For my rewrites for Forced to Have the Player's Kid, I'm going to be doing a different opening actually, because I don't feel like my opening is exciting enough. I'm going to actually do a prologue where I explain more of the details of the plague, which not only helps with world building, but will also help draw readers in with, you know, the excitement of a plague. It's not just a girl waking up in the beginning. After I've written my first chapter on Wattpad, I don't really waste any time. I go straight into promotion. So promotion for me usually consists of my friend, Caitlin, making me art stuff. So that's me, the potato, and Caitlin, the cat. And she'll either make me covers, she'll make me promotional materials, all of which look absolutely beautiful, and then I'll go onto the Wattpad forums and I'll start promoting my story. Now, when I started on Wattpad, you can go onto any forum and you can promote your story, but now they have it so you have to promote by category. So I went to the teen fiction every day, twice a day, and would promote my story on there. On top of that, I also drew in readers by updating quite frequently in the beginning of my story, which was easy for me at the time because I wasn't doing a play. I highly suggest that if you want to get popular on Wattpad, you don't waste time on promotion, and that you are very dedicated to your promotion schedule. Now, the next step in my creative Wattpad process is editing. Editing is my most hated step. As you can see, there's me crying and hating what I wrote. And that's because as I go on with my writing, I tend to get a lot better. Like, that sounds really vain, but I actually do start to get better as a writer as I write my story. So when I go back to those initial chapters, I'm usually quite grossed out with how bad of a writer I was. Editing is extremely useful, and I highly suggest it to anyone who wants to go into publishing. Working at the Writing Center at my school, I've learned a lot of editing techniques that have helped me, but I'm still not the best at it. So usually my first step in editing is to take a chapter and just look for grammar issues, and then I go into plot issues, and then I might even go into characterization or sentence structure or flow. So I'll end up doing, for one chapter, 3 different drafts of it before I finally put it in its final draft form, and then I send it to my editor. My editor will do anything from suggesting where I move forth in that scene, pointing out parts that don't make sense, and also sometimes grammar stuff, because I am still learning with grammar and I can use any of the help I can get. So after I finish having it go through my editor, I have not yet reached this stage yet with Forced to Have the Player's Kid, but then I would take it to the Writing Center and have one of my coworkers help me with it, and then have a bunch of my friends peer review it. So editing, if you want to do it right, should be a lengthy process, and I think so far I've gotten halfway through the editing the first 3 chapters of Forced to Have the Player's Kid, and they already are looking so much better. And now on to the final step of my creative process, fan interaction. So this can be the best and worst part of Wattpad. I like to interact with my fans on a variety of platforms like Tumblr, through messages, and now YouTube. And it's really great because they'll sometimes say like the sweetest things, and I love my fans because of that. Unfortunately, due to the controversial nature of my story, I also get a lot of hate mail. I suggest that if you guys do end up getting hate mail, just don't reply to it or you'll just egg them on. But more often than not, when people take the time to send me a message or reply to my social media, it's usually really, really good stuff. And I even have fans now writing fan fiction of my story, which is it's just so cool and every writer's dream. So thank you guys so much for that. Fan interaction can also be useful because they can give you some really good suggestions for your story. So, for Forced to Have the Player's Kid, I did not originally plan on having Adira have twins, but I did have some fans suggest it to me, and I was like, oh my god, that'd be so interesting. And now the sequel of my story is named The Player's Twins. So, yeah, I thought that was really cool, and it really helped me in like getting more inspiration. So, yeah, I love fan interaction. It's one of my favorite parts of Wattpad. The other cool thing is Wattpad, unlike other writing places, is that you do get that one-on-one interaction with your readers and your fans. So I'm putting my rough draft, obviously, online, which is kind of gutsy to do. But I think it's worth it because even though it's not my best work I'm putting out there, I can still talk to people about it who, you know, I don't know in real life. And it's really, really cool and rewarding. So yeah, those are all of my steps for how I write Wattpad stories, and if you guys are stuck with your writing process, consider trying one of these steps because these aren't always what everyone does when they write a story. So yeah, please leave a comment and if this video was helpful or interesting or if you liked it. And as always, I love you guys, I love my penguins, and I will see you next time. Bye!